Hey everyone, welcome to a Thanksgiving edition of Shouting from the Rooftops. If you had a Thanksgiving celebration, I hope it was a good one. And if you didn't, I hope you'll still enjoy this video. I'm going to take a 1-week break from discussing Australopithecus. But for all you Australopithecus fans awaiting a discussion of Australopithecus skull and postcranial anatomy, that will continue next week. But today, in honor of Thanksgiving, I'm going to do something a little different. I love books and reading, and so I'm going to offer you some favorite quotes about books. This video is sort of short and sweet because of the Thanksgiving holiday, and I hope you like it. To lighten things up, I'm going to start and end with humor, so depending on your taste, you may have something to look forward to. Here's one from the very funny George Carlin. I went to a bookstore and asked the saleswoman, "Where's the self-help section?" And she said, "If I told you, it would defeat the purpose." With that out of the way, here are 3 quotes on the grim topic of book burning, where the great German poet Heinrich Heine said, "Where they have burned books, they will end in burning human beings." Joseph Brodsky, expelled from the Soviet Union of his birth, winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature, and former United States Poet Laureate, took a different tack. He said, "There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is not reading them." And finally, some encouragement from Kurt Vonnegut in his 2005 memoir, A Man Without a Country, where he wrote, "And on the subject of burning books, I want to congratulate librarians, not famous for their physical strength or their powerful political connections or their great wealth, who, all over this country, have staunchly resisted anti-democratic bullies who tried to remove certain books from the shelves and have refused to reveal to the thought police the names of persons who have checked out those titles. So the America I loved still exists, if not in the White House or the Supreme Court or the Senate or the House of Representatives or the media. The America I love still exists at the front desks of our public libraries." Kurt Vonnegut. And I would add, let's hold to eternal vigilance on freedom of thought, freedom of ideas, and their repository in books, whether physical or digital. These next 4 I was originally thinking of as a set about the books and the inner life. But on reflection, they're really about books and the inner life as refuge from the difficulties of the world. Somerset Maugham observed, "To acquire the habit of reading is to construct for yourself a refuge from almost all the miseries of life." And a character in one of Neil Gaiman's novels says, "I lived in books more than I lived anywhere else." The novelist Ross MacDonald wrote, "The walls of books around him, dense with the past, formed a kind of insulation against the present world and its disasters." And one of my very favorite quotes, because I feel a strong affinity with this idea about my own books, comes from Saul Bellow in his first novel, Dangling Man, when his alienated protagonist says about his books and the role they play in his life, "As long as they surrounded me, they stood as guarantors of an extended life, far more necessary and precious than the one I was forced to lead daily." And here are 3 quick quotes that I'm calling imperatives. In other words, writers asserting how one should read. First, Boswell in Life of Johnson. "And how I wish I had followed this piece of wisdom more, especially in my adult life." He says, "A man ought to read just as his inclination leads him, for what he reads as a task will do him little good." Yeah, so true. Kafka writes, "A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us." And Flaubert wrote in Apologies to Children, "Do not read as children do, to amuse yourself, or like the ambitious, for the purpose of instruction. No, read in order to live." Groucho Marx apparently valued reading very much when he said, "I find television very educating. Whenever anyone turns on the set, I go in the other room and read a book." Admittedly a somewhat ironic quote for a YouTube video. This one is a favorite of mine. It's Danny Shanahan in the New Yorker in 1994. The caption is, "No cafe latte? You call yourselves a bookstore?" On second thought, 20 years later, maybe we're still lucky to have bookstores, cafe latte or not. And this one from John Rogers straddles all three categories of humor, imperative, and refuge from the inner life. He writes, "There are two novels that can change a bookish 14-year-old's life, The Lord of the Rings and Atlas Shrugged. One is a childish fantasy that often engenders a lifelong obsession with its unbelievable heroes, leading to an emotionally stunted, socially crippled adulthood, unable to deal with the real world. The other, of course, involves orcs." And I'm going to close with Shakespeare, who famously said in The Tempest, "Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough." Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be sure to subscribe. You can follow my Instagram, and thanks a lot for watching.